Parks Canada, also known as the Parks Canada Agency, is an agency of the Government of Canada run by the Minister of the Environment, who mandates it to protect and present nationally significant natural and cultural heritage, and foster public understanding, appreciation, and enjoyment in ways that ensure their ecological and commemorative integrity for present and future generations. Parks Canada manages 46 national parks, 4 national marine conservation areas, 168 national historic sites, and 1 national landmark. The agency also administers lands and waters set aside as potential national parklands, including 8 national park reserves and 1 national marine conservation area reserve. The Canadian Register of Historic Places is supported and managed by Parks Canada, in collaboration with provincial and territorial governments and other federal bodies. History. Parks Canada was established on May 19, 1911, as the Dominion Parks branch under the Department of the Interior, becoming the world's first national parks service. Since its creation, its name has changed, known variously as the Dominion Parks Branch, National Parks Branch, Parks Canada, and the Canadian Parks Service, before a return to Parks Canada in 1998. The service's activities are regulated under the provisions of the Canada National Parks Act, which was enacted in 1930, and amended in 2000. Organization. The Parks Canada Agency was established as a separate service entity in 1998, and falls under the responsibility of Environment Canada. Before 2003, Parks Canada fell under the jurisdiction of the Department of Canadian Heritage, where it had been since 1994. From 1979 to 1994, Parks Canada was part of the Department of Environment, and before it was part of the Department of Indian and Northern Affairs, and the Department of the Interior. With the organizational shifts and political leadership in Canada, the priorities of Parks Canada have shifted over the years more towards conservation and away from development. Starting in the 1960s, Parks Canada has also moved to decentralize its operations. Parks Canada is currently headed by Daniel Watson, who was appointed in August 2015, following the retirement of Alan Latourell, who had been reappointed on August 7, 2007. As of 2004, the annual budget for Parks Canada is approximately $500 million, and the agency has 4,000 employees. Legislation, regulations and boards. Parks Canada Agency Act, Heritage Lighthouse Protection Act, Historic Sites and Monuments Act, which empowers the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada to create the 167 National Historic Sites of Canada. Heritage Railway Stations Protection Act, which makes such structures fall under the Historic Sites and Monuments Board. Canadian Heritage River System, which is defined under the Parks Canada Agency Act, and which governs 37 Canadian heritage rivers. Canada National Marine Conservation Areas Act, which governs the 4 national marine conservation areas. Canada National Parks Act, which creates 46 national parks of Canada. See also the list of national parks of Canada. Laurier House Act, RSC, 1952. 163. Saguenay Street, Lawrence Marine Park Act. Historic Canals Regulations, which governs the Rideau Canal including the Tay Canal, Trent Severn Waterway including the Murray Canal, which runs between Lake Ontario and the Bay of Quinte, Sault Marie Canal, St. Hours Canal, Chamberlain Canal, St. Anne de Bellevue Canal, Carillon Canal, Lachine Canal, St. Peters Canal. The Department of Canadian Heritage, which runs federal museums and more cultural affairs, falls under the control of the Minister of Heritage. Enforcement. Parks Canada employs park wardens to protect natural and cultural resources, conduct campground patrols and other targeted enforcement activities, and to ensure the safety of visitors in national parks and marine conservation areas. They are designated under Section 18 of the Canada National Parks Act and have the authority of peace officers. They carry firearms and have access to other use of force options. The minister may also designate provincial and local enforcement officers under Section 19 of the Act for the purpose of enforcing laws within the specified parks. These officers have the power of peace officers only in relation to the Act. In May 2012 it was reported that park wardens may be cross-designated to enforce certain wildlife acts administered by Environment Canada. Should the designations go ahead, it would only be for park wardens that are stationed near existing migratory bird sanctuaries. Essentially, the intent of the change is to allow for a faster and lower-cost response to environmental enforcement incidents, particularly in remote areas in the north where Environment Canada does not have an ongoing presence. But Parks Canada has a park warden nearby who could act on its behalf, rather than have Environment Canada responded from a farther office. Bibliography: Campbell, Claire Elizabeth ed. Century of Parks Canada, 1911 to 2,011,447 pp. Essays by experts that trace the history of the agency. Hildebrandt, Walter. Historical Analysis of Parks Canada and Banff National Park, 1968 to 1995. List of legislation for which Parks Canada is responsible. Lothian, W.F. A History of Canada's National Parks, Volumes IIV. Lothian, W.F. A Brief History of Canada's National Parks. Lothian, W.F. Histoire des Parcs Nationaux du Canada, Volumes IIV. Lothian, W.F. Petite Histoire des Parcs Nationaux du Canada.